Season 1 of Medsplaining is brought to you by Estee Lauder. With 40 years of night repair expertise and 30 years of collagen research, Estee Lauder are the experts in nighttime skincare. Before we get into today's topic, make sure to subscribe to the Medsplaining podcast on your favorite podcast platform to never miss an episode. Estee Lauder's Advanced Night Repair Serum, combined with the new Revitalizing Supreme Night Power Bounce Cream, is your nighttime skincare solution. This powerful duo delivers deep renewal and enhances elasticity and bounce. Experience the power of night science. Welcome everyone to Medsplaining. As you can probably tell, we're not in our studio today. We're getting way outside of our comfort zone, at least my comfort zone.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I'm here with Laura Keogh of the Sweet Potato Chronicles. If you don't follow her, I highly recommend it. And if you're listening to this right now, I highly recommend you switch over and watch this episode on YouTube, because Laura is going to teach me today how to prepare a nutritious and delicious perimenopause and menopause-friendly meal. So I'm very excited to learn from you today, Laura.
I feel like I'm not teaching you anything. I feel like you can make a salad.
Oh, wow.
Let's not scare anyone. This is easy cooking.
My husband might disagree, but I'm open to learning. I'm actually really excited because we're going to chat and we're going to sprinkle in some information about the
how
changing.
I went crazy.
Well,
perimenopause.
That, but also me too. Believe me. But what the nutritional needs are and how it changes, and maybe what contributes to weight gain or weight loss in perimenopause. So I think there'll be a lot of really great information along with a nutritious and delicious meal today.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be difficult. Often people find food hard, and so I'm here to make it easy, because taking care of your body, particularly in this season of your life for women, is really important. And the easiest thing you can do is begin in the kitchen with your nutrition.
Fantastic. So we're going to get to that in just a moment. But first, a quick ad break. Let's talk about waking up to our best skin yet. That's possible with Estee Lauder's Advanced Night Repair Serum. Formulated with their exclusive night peptide, it helps ignite 7 powerful skin-renewing actions, fighting the key signs of aging, all while you sleep. Transform your skin overnight with Estee Lauder. Okay, so before we get to cooking today, I want to give everyone an opportunity to get to know Laura and her story, because like me, she's someone who pivoted and found her calling.
I did. I did a massive pivot. So I used to be a beauty director at a major fashion magazine here in Canada. And then I just decided to marry my life stage with my professional life once I had a baby. So I had a baby and I realized, oh my God, I have to feed this person every single day. And that was really the difficult part, was not only feeding myself, but learning how to feed my baby. And
because you were having kind of a chaotic experience with your
when you're
day-to-day.
in a magazine, you're drinking a champagne, you're maybe having a bowl of cereal late when you get home over the sink, right? So my nutrition wasn't great, although I was very interested in nutrition and always worked out and had a really healthful mindset. But then I had a baby and everything changed. And like every mother, you're like, I want everything to be perfect. I want to make sure I teach this baby not to be a picky eater like I was, and make sure it loves broccoli. And so it became, how can I figure out this food thing? Which was very difficult at the time. There weren't a lot of sites that were available. And the sites that talked to moms were like, get your baby Wavy to eat cutie green beans. It was like it talked to parents like they were the children.
And it's like, you come and get my kid to eat green beans.
Yes.
Good luck.
Yeah. And so I really wanted to create a space where women felt like they were being spoken to like by their girlfriends, and how they could pack nutrition into their kids and get the most bang for their buck. Because for me, it was like, I didn't want a meal. I wanted everything they could get in one meal. Like I really wanted a meal to count and not to be slim on things. And so it was I kind of tackled feeding my daughter like journalism, like I had been a journalist. And so I was like, I'm going to research superfoods, because let's give my daughter superfoods so that her nutrition matters and she gets a lot. And so Sweet Potato Chronicles was born, because sweet potatoes are a superfood. And so it became about creating easy recipes that delivered really high on nutrition.
That's fantastic. So you set that example for her, and you set her up for success in this way so that she'll care about the nutrition, because it's not about, I don't want to focus on calorie restriction and dieting.
No.
We have to do away with that. We have to start thinking of food as fuel for our body and focus on what we want more of, not what we want less of. For me, things really shifted, and what I hear time and time again from my patients is, wow, suddenly I hit 40 and everything I used to do that used to work didn't work anymore. Yeah. And there are reasons, there are physiological reasons why this is happening. Why am I gaining weight in my midsection? Why suddenly am I B12 deficient? Why do I feel like the things I used to eat don't work for me anymore? I feel really sluggish. And so it's another point where often women pivot is midlife.
Yeah.
And it's not in your imagination. These things are happening, and they're happening with good reason. And so a lot of women try to exercise it off, right? They're running more, they're swimming more, they're doing more and more and more.
That was me.
Right? And it doesn't work. It's not that it's not good to do those things. We need that for our brain and our heart. But if you're looking to do cardio for weight loss, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have a very probably an experience that lots of women can relate to, like I, was always very healthful, and I worked out. I like to work out a lot. And women are busy, right? We're not only mentally busy with everything we have to remember, keeping together our lives and our families' lives, so we're mentally busy, but we're also physically so busy, right? We're running around after either younger children or driving, older kids all around, and we're up early and we're the last to bed usually. And so for me, I always wanted to make sure I fit in time to work out, right? And then I realized as I got older that suddenly all that time I spent working out, I wasn't seeing the results like I used to see the results.
Right.
And I wasn't feeling good afterwards. Like I had a really difficult time, because I did a class, I would do a daily class in the afternoon, and I every day hit this terrible slump in the middle of the day, and I was like, why do I have to lay down? Like, what is going on? And then I would work out, and I would work out really hard sometimes, and I wasn't moving the needle any longer. And I was like, what? Well, I can't work out more. I don't have more time. Yeah. And so what's it going to take? And for me, when I wasn't moving the needle and my weight just kind of kept very slowly climbing, I realized the only thing I don't do really is change my diet. Yeah. Because for me, it was always like, I'm an active person. I eat healthfully a lot of the time. I'm going to enjoy the things I want whenever I want them. And then I realized maybe I'm getting to the point where I have to spend more time looking at what I enjoy and looking at how I can adjust those things. And I managed, after I kind of revamped my whole diet, to lose the weight and then some, because I felt like by really taking a healthful approach at what I was eating, and eating like something like what we're going to cook today, really helped. And it helped in other ways. It helped with my mood. It helped with keeping me regular. Like I noticed I had more energy. Yes. And so it became this cascade effect that I was like, oh, I like how I'm feeling, I like how I'm sleeping, I like the energy I have.
And it wasn't like you were eliminating everything. You were adding more of the
highly
nutritious foods in.
Yeah, and taking out sugars.
Yes.
I did take a really proactive choice to getting rid of certain things like sugar and things like
Fantastic. I think that's great. I know you had a very
in a lot of ways, typical experience going through the menopause transition. Yeah. Are you okay to share a little bit of,
I'd love
of that story with us?
I would love to, because I wish I had friends who, I wish I heard this when I was going through, because I started perimenopause quite young. And I really, really struggled. Like, I couldn't get through a day without feeling extremely sad. I was always crying. I was very tired all the time. And then the flip of that is I was wildly irritable. Like, if you didn't put the sponge back where it belonged, I was upset. Like,
so a 2 out of 10 became a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. And then also I noticed I had a lack of confidence. And I didn't know that until recently, when menopause and perimenopause became this buzzword and people were talking about it more, that I realized now I had an aha moment where I was like, oh, that was perimenopause too. I didn't realize that. And I felt really, I was like, well, I used to be such a confident person. Why do I feel like I can't do things? And then coupled with that, I had a tween daughter.
Yes.
Who, you know, they're hard on their mom. So at the same time, I was like, well, maybe I do suck. And maybe, you know.
Oh, no, because they're going through their own hormonal upheaval at the same time. And it's a cruel joke of nature that we go through this when they're going through it.
Is that when women, and I'm so sympathetic for when we're going through these things, everything in our life is changing. Our children are growing, our parents are aging, so we're dealing with so much more than just ourselves, but we're not the best version of ourselves anymore.
Absolutely.
And so the coping, like, oh, I'm getting chills because I'm just thinking about it, because the coping mechanisms we have are really taxed at that point too, and it's really difficult. And so,
wouldn't it be nice if you could just go to your doctor and get the answers and reassurance? And
I tried.
I know. So tell us about what your experience was.
I did. I had an amazing doctor, and he really wanted to help me, and he kept saying to me, let's send you to a woman gyno. Let's send you to. But before that, I did have this kind of one doctor, when my regular doctor wasn't around, who said, why don't we just if you're crying all the time, why don't we just put you on an antidepressant? And I just thought, really? It seemed so lazy to me, because I knew I wasn't, like, I'd been depressed before, so I knew I wasn't depressed, and I knew I could get out of it. I felt I just needed to be more myself, and I needed a lift, and I needed help out of that hole. And I didn't want to be put on an antidepressant. I didn't want to start that whole train. So I was really disillusioned.
Well, it sounds like you sort of had this insight. So you had a little inner voice telling you, this is something beyond depression.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not that it's wrong to try an antidepressant.
No,
if you're anxious, if you're depressed, if it's affecting your function. But this is something I hear that's unique to the perimenopause, like the menopause transition and perimenopausal women, is their inner voice is telling them that the antidepressant is not the answer, because there's something that is informing them in a way that this is something different. And it came out of nowhere, and there was no trigger for it.
The thing that clicked was, one time, like I said, I was a journalist. I had been at the magazine once, and I had researched a story about the signs your body gives you when something is wrong. And I remember it was like the little white spots you get on your nail, or hair loss means you're low in iron.
Yes.
And I remember starting to pay attention to my signs. Like a journalist, I started researching. And then I did see perimenopause come up with certain things, like the lack of sleeping, the night sweats.
Exactly.
Those kind of things. And I thought, I have no problem with an antidepressant or people making choices for their bodies, but I knew that wasn't the right one, like you're saying. And so I felt very frustrated. And now looking back, I feel bad for my 40-year-old self, because she was so sad. I suffered so much. And I really didn't have to, because there are things that you can do, and there are steps that you can take to make yourself feel better, right?
And so many are not things a doctor can or needs to do for you. Yes, hormone therapy, we could talk about it all day, but today let's focus on the lifestyle piece, because that is 80% of it.
Yep.
Even if you're somebody who ends up on hormone therapy, you also have to do the lifestyle piece to feel your best self.
Absolutely.
So let's talk food. Let's talk fueling our bodies to help us through this transition in the most healthful way possible, to set ourselves up for a healthy and vibrant future.
Like when I pivoted and I created Sweet Potato Chronicles, the goal was to make the most out of your meals, right? And to pack them with nutrition, right? I wanted to pack my baby with nutrition. Now let's pack ourselves with the good for you things that we need to make our bodies run and to make us happy and less irritable and to help us manage everything that we take on in a day, because we're pretty incredible.
We really
like
are.
women, right? And like what we do and what we carry off in a day takes energy, and we need that from our food, right?
Absolutely.
And so I lean on things like that are nutrition packed. So sweet potatoes, kale, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, what's the other thing? See, I have brain fog.
Blueberry. I get it all the time, and I used to have a photographic memory.
Me too.
I don't know what happened to that.
I know.
But it's okay.
It's okay.
It's just different. We're prioritizing different skills.
And quite frankly, if I forgot it must not have been that important.
That's right. But what I want you to notice, if you're watching or if you're listening, and if you're listening to this, I want you to be just picturing what we're talking about, because you're going to see how many of the things that we're using in today's recipe look like they're in their original form.
And that's what it's about, right? Like,
absolutely. Let's eat the rainbow, let's eat nutritiously, and let's not waste our nutrients. Let's not waste our calorie intake with things that are empty.
Let's not waste it, but once in a while we have to have cookies.
Well, yeah, let's have a cookie first.
Okay, let's have a cookie first. Cheers.
Cheers.
To cookies.
So we have two very special guests here today.
We do.
Would you like to introduce me to your friends?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
First, I'm going to tell you that my friends are going to be the star in a very simple kale salad. And my friend is chicken, and my other good, highly nutritious omega-3 rich friend is salmon. Ta-da. And so you can use either chicken or salmon for this dish. And the reason that we want to make sure we have a protein is because we know it's important for, right?
Yeah, we got to build our muscles. We need those amino acids. Now, we want about 20% of our diet to be animal product based, but you might as well make that 20% highly protein packed, lean, and full of nutrition. So yes, omega-3s.
Omega-3s, so helpful for women in perimenopause and menopause.
Exactly.
Right? And so great for brain function and all of those things. So that brain fog, like, in 5 minutes I may forget what we're making, but as soon as I eat it, we'll be okay.
Exactly. And in the long term, it'll all come out in the wash, because we know that often brain fog improves over time. Research and evidence shows our processing speed slows down a little bit, but our learning remains the same, and both remain superior to our male counterparts. So it feels like an abrupt slowdown to us and our family, because we were firing on all cylinders to such a high extent before. Yes. Don't worry about it.
It does feel catastrophic.
You're still at the top of your game.
So the name of the game is simple, right? So I want everyone to be able to go into the kitchen and get a meal on the table that's healthful but easy. And so what I have here is a chicken breast. And all I've done is, it's quite thick. And so that can mean some longer cooking time. And we want to cut that off, right? We don't have the time, and we don't also want to be in the kitchen all day. So what I've done is I've cut it in half, and we're going to cook these two halves separately, and they're going to cook in less time. So the first thing we're going to do is, it's very simple. I have a piece of parchment paper. I put it down on the plate. I've got some salt as well as some pepper, and that's how we're going to season our chicken. Then on top of that, we're going to just put some lemon zest, because we're going to make a simple dressing in the salad. So we're going to mimic the flavors that we're going to use as a dressing in the salad. And so that has lemon in it. Did I say lime? See? So we're just going to get some lemon zest down onto our parchment paper, because we're going to put our chicken into this and coat the outside of it. And so once we've done that, we're just gonna get our piece of chicken. We're gonna lay it right down onto our little salt, pepper, and zest bath. And we're gonna do both sides of it. And then that's ready to go. And we're gonna put it onto a grill pan. If we were using our salmon, you'll do the same thing. You could just put some lemon zest on and give it a little season, maybe a little olive oil, and that's it. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this onto a grill pan.
Okay, so we're now gonna cook our main character.
We're gonna cook.
Yeah. Now this is where I start to feel intimidated, Laura, because I'm not a cook. I'm famously not a cook, and I want to be. It's something I aspire to be. Talk to me just through the basics. Like, how do you know what to set the temperature at when you're cooking a nice piece of chicken like this? So you don't burn it, but you want it juicy. You want just that perfect.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is there's two ways of doing this. You can use a grill pan and just plop it onto your stove and do it like how we're going to do it today.
All right.
If that is intimidating to you, you can also just pop this into the oven.
Okay.
And I can't stress enough that if meat is intimidating to you, just buy a really inexpensive meat thermometer and use that, because not everyone can look at a piece of meat or touch it and know that it's cooked. And it's really important for you to bring your meat to the proper temperature before eating it, right? Because there's food safety issues associated with. So a good meat thermometer and you're golden. So not to worry. But you do always want to make sure when you're dealing with meat that you have a nice hot pan. So I just give it a little wave to make sure I feel some good heat emanating off of that. And then our breast is all ready to go. I'm going to get some oil down onto our pan. Again, like I said, you could do this on a baking sheet. You could just lift this parchment up that you prepared it on, put it onto a baking sheet, pop it into the oven at 375. And again, because we cut that thick breast in half, we're reducing our cooking time. And we like that because it means we're getting to the meal quicker.
And speaking of which, I often walk in the door at 5:30. I have less than an hour to get dinner on the table. Any hacks, any tips or tricks for us who are in a hurry?
You can make the protein on the weekend. So you could do this on a Sunday when you had some extra time. My number one tip is to always, whenever you go into the kitchen, get more out of your time there. So if you're already making dinner, if you have time while you're waiting for like a lasagna to bake or something else to bake, start something else. And use that time to get ahead with something else. Maybe you're putting rice on the oven that's going to live in the refrigerator. So when you come home during the week, you already have a side waiting for you. Maybe you're going to do this. Maybe you're going to cut your chicken breast in half and cook it up so that it's in the refrigerator for during the week. Whenever you have a downtime in a recipe that you are preparing for maybe that night's dinner, take the time to do something else, because your Wednesday night self will thank you so much that you came home, because you're tired when you come home. The last thing you actually want to do is make dinner.
Got it.
And it's why we named Sweet Potato Chronicles, because dinner never goes away, and a chronicle is never ending, and dinner is never ending.
Yes, it's so true.
And why is it at the end of the day? Because I'm tired at the end of the day. Can't dinner be in the morning?
Exactly. And you're using olive oil, which I just want to point out. So we've talked about the omega-3s, but women need their omega-6s and their omega-9s. So omega-9s are olive oil, avocado, and our omega-6s are from nuts and seeds, and we're getting all of the super nutrients that women need. And what's interesting is at perimenopause, we have a decline in our fatty acid oxidation. We're not able to extract them and use them as well as we once were. So it's really important to make sure that you're packing your meals with these fatty acids.
I love it. And so is it more about building muscle mass now and less about cardio?
Yes. So our muscle mass peaks at age 35, 25 to 35, I should say. After 35, it starts declining at a fairly rapid rate. And this increases as you approach your final period. Who knows when that's going to be? So I think it's really important to start in your 30s and 40s especially to focus on building your muscle mass. And this is where protein is so vital. We want to be including protein at every meal, because for women especially, evidence suggests that you need your protein to be distributed throughout your day, not just packed into a short time window. Meal. You got it.
Here's a question for you. If we're talking about protein, beans, then if you were vegetarian, if neither of these proteins appealed to you,
plant-based protein is completely fine. You have to be mindful of your iron, because for women who are iron deficient, you want to make sure you're talking to your doctor and figuring out if you need an iron supplement. But in terms of protein, plant-based protein is perfect, and that gives you fiber as well.
Exactly,
which is so crucial.
And fiber is so important.
It's so crucial for us.
Everyone's talking about it more now. How do we know if we have an iron deficiency?
Great question. Ask your doctor to test you.
Okay.
You should be suspicious, especially if you're having heavy periods. Because that blood loss every month can often lead women to be iron deficient.
I know I was.
Right. It's not uncommon at all. I mean, women, we're losing blood every month, right? So until we get to this final period. So it's really important to ask your doctor to check your blood counts, which is a CBC, and your ferritin. So iron in the blood is very dependent on what you ate the day before, the hour before. It's not reliable. So don't worry so much about your iron count, but ferritin is a little protein that stores our iron.
That's the business.
The warehouse for our iron. So that's what you want to make sure is sufficient. Women often feel their best when their ferritin is between 50 and 100. So get it checked. When in doubt, get it checked. Okay, let's get this chicken cooking.
Let's do it. So we're just going to get it onto our hot pan. That's sizzle. And like I said, this is going to cook up real quickly. When we start to see it go opaque on the bottom edges and kind of sneak up the middle, then we're going to give it a flick. And then if you don't want to do this at all, you can just pop it into your oven. That's also completely doable. And same with the salmon. Okay, the first thing we want to do is you'll notice that kale has this really kind of hard, stiff stem. We don't want to eat that. That's not going to be lovely. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that stem right out of the leaf. And this guy goes into the green bin. And then this is what we're going to chop up to make our salad.
Lovely.
Now that we've got all of our stems out that are quite tough, we're just going to chop our kale. And so we want to get this into bite-sized ribbon pieces.
And this is dinosaur kale.
This is dinosaur kale. And it's really easy to find in the grocery store. You could also use other varieties of kale. Like, you don't have to be married to this variety.
Sure.
The thing about dinosaur kale is, or kale in general, is it does have tough leaves, okay? And so the way that we're gonna make them nice and tender and palatable, so they're like yummy and delicious for our meal, is by massaging it. And we're going to do that with some olive oil as well as some salt, which is going to break down those fibers and make it nice and tender.
And you know, green or leafy greens are another great source of iron, which we were talking about before. And combining them with citrus, like from the lemon, it helps absorb the iron. So that's another little fun tip.
Okay, so we're almost there where we've got all of our greens ready. So here we go. Now we're going to get all of our chopped kale into this bowl. And then we're going to grab our olive oil again and some salt. So this is about a tablespoon I'm going to get on here. This is also making our dressing.
Okay.
So we're also going to get about a half a teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to just massage. And you need to massage this for 3 minutes. So this is when we put on our podcast and listen to her tell us all these wonderful things.
Exactly.
But we're going to make this kale really lovely and tender. And then after this, I'm going to get some lemon juice in here, and we're going to be done with the dressing. It's all very simple.
Excellent. This is where you can go and hit the like or subscribe button and leave us a review.
Exactly. Yes.
With one hand while you're massaging
with one
the
hand.
kale
And
together.
if you notice, I'm getting kale everywhere. And that's fine too, because you know what? When I cook, someone else cleans. So.
Well, this is fantastic. I have never heard of this before.
Really?
Yes. I'm really excited to learn so much from you.
So this is I don't know if you can tell, but it's
night and day.
It's noticeably more tender. I'm going to pick up my mess and get it back into the bowl. And then...
And it's a massage I don't have to write someone a prescription for.
Exactly.
Your insurance company never needs to know.
Exactly. Okay, next, our kale is all massaged. So what I'm going to whip together now is just a quick, easy pesto. I know you're thinking, why are you making something else? Aren't we done? But this is easy and fast, and I promise you it's going to be worth it on that chicken. So
I trust you.
I know you do. Thank you. So I've got a little blender here in the container.
And even I can use a blender.
So
this is perfect.
See, I knew all of this is designed for you to knock it out of the park, because I want everyone to feel like they can do this and it's easy. So in my canister, I have some pine nuts. I'm going to get in a large clove of garlic. I'm also going to get in some fresh basil.
I wish everyone could smell this between the cheese and the basil.
I know. You can't do anything wrong if you have basil and cheese around, right? My love language is cheese. Like, cheese should be on everything. Cheese should be on absolutely everything.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it can't always in a perfect world.
I know, but
could someone please invent, fat-free cheese that tastes amazing?
Yeah.
Right?
That's our next job.
Okay.
Our next pivot is the low-fat cheese girls.
Exactly.
Okay, I've got some salt in there. I'm going to get some oil in here, and then we're going to also add some oil after we have the process going. Okay, and now we're going to give it a whiz. And then we're just going to get this out into a bowl.
It looks fantastic. It smells amazing.
You cannot do better of a smell in a kitchen than basil and garlic unless you're baking cookies. Going to give it a little brightness of some lemon. And then we're ready to go.
Fantastic. Looks great.
Now, for our salad, so I've got some currants, and these are going to add some sweetness, which I love. And then finally, because we have the pesto, I'm going to also incorporate some pine nuts. Best tools in the kitchen are your hands. So I'm just going to toss this with clean hands, but obviously if you were maybe like serving this to, a bunch of guests, you might not want to do this, and you can just use some tongs. Then finally, I'm going to get our chicken. And I'm going to add some more Parmesan cheese to the top, and then we're ready for lunch.
Wonderful. I can't wait. Okay, Laura, so we're getting ready to plate everything.
We're getting ready to eat.
Yay! And I also want to finish your story, because we had talked about how you were really struggling with perimenopause, not really getting any help.
No.
Tell us what happened then. Like, how did you finally find some relief from your symptoms and some support?
Well, I was really lucky to have a doctor who could empathize with me, because his wife had gone through similar hardships during her lovely phase of menopause, perimenopause. And so he recommended that I visit a woman OBGYN.
Okay.
She was wonderful, because one of the ways that she suggested that we kind of tackle what I was dealing with, which was anxiety and night sweats, loss of confidence, and the crying and the irritability, was to put me back on the birth control pill. Okay. And so I did that. Okay. And I felt good about that. And I went back on for about 5 years. And then I noticed that all the irregularities that had plagued me, like the heavy periods or the night sweats, and those things kind of just started to level off. And then I went to a very predictable rhythm that I used to enjoy when I was younger, right? Like my period started coming very regularly and my period was very manageable. And that was just kind of just before it started to kind of completely peter out. And when I noticed that, then I thought, I think I can go off this pill now. And, you know, I had a conversation with her and she said, go ahead and do it. And I really felt like it was the right thing for me at the time because nobody knew my body better than me. And I felt like it was something that it was time to do.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you know, that's true because the birth control pill can help minimize the periods. It really stabilizes things.
Yes.
And I find, especially in the earlier part of perimenopause, it's very, very effective for at least minimizing the symptoms. It doesn't always help every woman, and certainly there are different pills you can try if one doesn't work, but it's safe, it's effective, it's always worth a try in perimenopause. So I'm glad that it had that effect for you. And, you know, had you stopped it and found your symptoms really started creeping up again, you could have gone back on it again until menopause. And that's something a lot of women don't understand is that for most women, it's safe to continue a birth control pill until the age of menopause.
So now that I'm in my menopause years, maybe you can help me because I hear so many friends saying, you know, oh, my doctor has me on an estrogen patch or a progesterone patch. And I feel like, you know, it's human nature to feel like you should be doing all the things.
You're feeling left out.
I'm feeling left out of a patch. So what is your recommendations for that?
Well, it really depends on how you're feeling. So do you have symptoms right now?
No.
Are you struggling?
No.
Exactly. And this is where I think some of the confusion comes in. So it's very normal a couple of years out from your final period for things to level off again. Your hormone levels do stabilize at their new lower levels, and our estrogen receptors can adapt. And so for many women, you sort of go through this adaptation to your new levels. And we only really recommend hormone therapy based on symptom management. If you told me I'm still having night sweats, I can't function during the day because I'm exhausted and I'm not sleeping through the night, or I'm at high risk for a fracture because of bone thinning, so loss of bone density. These are things that I would consider starting hormone therapy for. But it's become almost a fashion. Fashionable to be on hormone therapy. And I have to say, we don't have the evidence that it is recommended purely for preventive or cosmetic, if you will, reasons.
Well, that was my next question because someone also said to me, well, you need that estrogen because your body relies on it and you're going to have a massive aging without it. And that
we know that women survive through menopause and have for centuries or decades at least. I mean, I can't speak for when the lifespan was a little shorter, but we know that, first of all, yes, there are skin changes, there are hair changes.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is it going to help?
Unfortunately, maybe not, right? And it's certainly not, it's not worth starting a medication purely for your skin, for example. There are much more effective and proven ways to tackle the skin changes of menopause. It's not a good reason to really go on hormone therapy because, to be honest, we don't always get those estrogen receptors in the skin from hormone therapy. We don't necessarily find it reaches the skin as effectively as we'd like.
Okay, so unless you have still kind of acute symptoms, you don't need to consider hormone therapy.
It's always worth a discussion with your doctor because I also find women minimize their symptoms. We're great at normalizing things that are not normal.
You're so right.
And I hear, well, I don't soak the bed. I haven't slept in 5 years, but I'm not soaking the bed and changing the sheets like my friend has to. That doesn't matter. That sounds pretty bad to me. You know, that
sleeping is
impacting your quality of life. And let's talk about this.
Yeah.
But it's very normal to have a calming down and a lifting of that cloud after a few years after the final period.
Yes, I definitely remember feeling that of coming out of that mood and feeling more like myself. And it was such a great place to be in.
Well, I'm glad that you're there now. That's fantastic news.
Yeah. I wish, where were you 5 years ago?
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. But I'm here now, and that's what matters.
We eat?
Let's eat.
Okay, so we're going to add, like I mentioned, some lemon juice to our salad. I'm just going to squeeze it out into the palm of my hand so I can catch any seeds. And then I'm just going to give it a toss. And then, can I serve you?
I'd be honored.
Okay. Obviously, we want to make sure we have some cheese here.
Well, yeah.
So let me make sure I give you plenty of cheese.
Wow, this looks fantastic.
And I think you're going to love the crunch that the pine nuts give it and the sweetness from the currants.
I agree.
And then I'm going to get myself some. And then let's give you some chicken here on the side. And I'll get some chicken for myself. And then I'm just going to give you a little side of this pesto right next to your chicken.
Oh, wow. This is my first 5-star dining experience on Medsplaining. I'm very excited about it.
You're too funny. Okay. And bon appetit, my friend. Thank you for coming over and having lunch with me. And
anytime.
Teaching me all about my menopause.
It's a pleasure.
It's such a relief to hear all this information.
And I'm inspired to go home and make this tonight for my husband.
You're welcome, her husband.
Dave, this one's for you. It's been wonderful. Thanks so much for being on Medsplaining.
No, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to dig into my food now.
Great. And everyone go follow Laura, Sweet Potato Chronicles. You won't regret it.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Medsplaining. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. And if you'd like this episode, the best thing you can do is tell a friend or rate and review it wherever you listen to your podcast so other women can discover it. And don't forget, if you're listening to this, you may be happy to know that we video every single episode, so you can watch it if you prefer on YouTube. See you next week. Medsplaining is produced by Ghost Bureau. Thank you for tuning in to Medsplaining. While we strive to provide accurate and insightful information, this podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The opinions expressed by our host and guests are their own and should not be interpreted as medical advice. Every individual's health situation is unique, and it is crucial to consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding your specific concerns and conditions. Additionally, any links, resources, or references mentioned in our episodes are provided for informational purposes only and are not sponsored by Medsplaining. The producers and hosts of Medsplaining assume no responsibility or liability for any actions taken as a result of listening to our podcast. We encourage you to use the information presented here as a starting point for discussions with your healthcare provider. Information and references are subject to change based on scientific evidence as it evolves over time. The hosts and producers of Medsplaining are not responsible for future changes to the information and references and assume no obligation to update based on future developments. Remember, your health and well-being are paramount. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to exploring more topics in women's health with you in future episodes.